Hi guys, bit of Sunday night analysis ready for next week. Let's just jump straight into it. Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. First thing that I'm going to mark out on this pair is this lovely little downtrend that we're currently sat in at the moment. Let's get that put in. Then we've got a lovely little area here that seems to be matched on here where we've reversed. So we'll get that mapped out. Price action, as you can see, is looking relatively bullish. We're getting some wicks form at the bottom. This support here seems to be acting, which that's a very long period that support has held. So let's get that marked out. As I say, I think we're looking for a buy opportunity on this pair. Price action certainly shows it. Support seems to be doing its job. It might be worth waiting for a retrace to either our lower support or our trend line. So now we're going to want to jump into the day and see what we're looking at. In the day view, we can see that we've rejected at our trend line. We've punched above. Naturally, you want to tidy your lines up a little bit when you jump in. So I think that we're looking for an entry more than likely somewhere around here. We seem to have an area here. The price is struggling to punch above at the moment. So I wouldn't want to buy where we are because it's just too weak and there's not really any point in taking that. So I'd be looking for a reversal around this area and then to be jumping in either off of our trend line or off of this area here. I think we're going to punch above. And this is my ideal entry point. These would be, let's go for a conservative TP and an ambitious, keep it just below. So yeah, that's my view on Australian dollar, Canadian dollar for the coming week. Now moving on to Euro, we jumped in on this one last week. The analysis proved to be good. However, we got involved a little bit too early, so we ended up getting burnt. We've got a lovely little upward trend that has formed, a couple of taps on there. We've got a head and shoulders that has formed here. Our shoulder line is there. That's our left shoulder, the tip of our left shoulder. And the right shoulder has just about matched this. So I think it's possible that we're going to have another climb to trace back up. I want to mark our neckline because it's an incline head and shoulders. So that's going to be roughly our neckline. And I just want to mark out the trend that we're currently getting on the right hand shoulder because it does appear to be following a nice trend, which is going to give us, it's going to be significant when we're looking for our entry. Ideally for me, I would like to see this retrace to match this shoulder, jump in, ride it down to the neckline for TP1 and then take an ambitious TP2, dropping back down to match this previous low. However, I think it's probably more realistic that we're going to see a very slight climb, and then I would not want to get involved until we have broken through this trend line, retraced back up, and then we'll be looking for the same TP1, TP2. TP1 is going to want to be placed just above our neckline, and TP2 you're going to want to go all out for TP2 and just say let's go ambitious because it is a head and shoulders, so there's a very good chance that we are likely to see this crash off afterwards because we are in quite a steady upward trend at the moment, as you can see. Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, I'm liking the look of this pair for early next week. We can see that we have actually punched above this area of resistance and converted it to support when we have come back and had a little retest. Failed to close beneath, so the support has done its job. We've then punched higher and we are now looking at this area, which is now our new area of support. So I'm interested to see what this pair does around this area early next week. As we can see, it's creating an awful lot of wicks, indecisive action around this area. We've rejected, we've punched through, then rejected at the resistance. Again, we've retraced and rejected, dropped back down. We've then sat in corrective action with wicks all the way across this area. So I'm interested to make sure that we do not close beneath this level at all next week and stay above. But another thing that draws my attention and makes me believe we're looking at a long position on this pair is I think we're looking at the tip of a left shoulder there, a head here, and the right shoulder here. I think, I mean, it's not the clearest pattern in the world, but I think we're looking at shoulder, head, shoulder, punch up. An inverse head and shoulders seems to be formed there. And I'd be looking to make sure that we can then get in and ride this pair, because if we zoom out even more, we're looking at a descending channel, and I'd like to try and get us some longs in this week to try and ride that up. We're obviously not going to touch the top of our channel this week, but I think it'd be nice if we can make sure we sit around this area. We've got to watch price action. Patience is key here. You don't just want to jump in with a long position. Naturally, these areas can be broken at any point in time. Market makers just do what they want with the pair, but I think we need to make sure this area of support is respected and we don't close beneath at any point, and we need to look for an optimum entry, which we'll obviously jump into potentially early next week. US dollar, Japanese yen, I think we're going to need to be quite patient with. We've our analysis for this, as mine and tails, has been near enough bang on for the last 2 weeks in what we've expected from the pair. We've now broken out of our descending channel, as we can see. Just want to zoom in and see if we can find our area of interest, or where at least I expect our area of interest to be. We can see that we've had some impulses up and out of the channel. We now seem to be in some form of corrective stage. So for me, it's about trying to find the area whereabouts we're looking for a trace to. I think we're likely to see a trace to around this level. We can see that we've acted as a resistance here, we've then punched up through and come straight back into our channel. We've then come straight back above, and it's acted as a nice support here. I think we're likely to see a retrace to around that level. So we're going to be looking hopefully for a long around here. We are currently in the 4-hour view. I think we're likely to get into this probably on Tuesday. We're going to see some considerable movements when the market's open. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a slight climb when the market's open and a gap to the upside, followed by more corrective movement down to close that gap. And I'd be looking to get involved in a long, providing price action is good and this support does its job. Probably Tuesday or Wednesday, I'd be looking to take this pair long. I wouldn't want to hold it for too long. I'm not really liking dollar pairs too much at the moment with the trade war and, well, Trump being Trump. So it's not something I'd be looking to hold for too long. But I think realistically, we can still go for some nice profits. We can get one beneath, which is going to be a nice target, and another one which will be ambitious, which obviously we can then allow to run risk free. We round these numbers up or down dependent on what we're feeling at the time, but I think this is what we're looking for next week. Nice and patient, probably a gap to the upside, markets open, then a retrace down, corrective movement to our support before we can hopefully jump in and see some more of these lovely upward impulse movements. Euro USD I want to cover in a little bit more depth. We've got multiple taps of our lower trend line, which we'll just draw in now. So we've got one tap here, we've got another tap here, 3 and 4, and last week with these we punched through and converted our upper trend line to a support. So as you can see around this area here, we've broken straight through, retraced to our trend line, and the pairs continued on. You don't need me to tell you that this was a big week for Euro USD last week. The bulls were out in force. We have easily punched through this heavy line of resistance that we've got built up here. We've not even seen a pullback onto this level, so for that reason I would not be surprised if next week we start to see a considerable amount of sideways movement for the pair. I think it's even possible that we might see a bit of a pullback to this lower support before the pair continues up. I certainly wouldn't consider buying the pair at the moment. It's just going to put you in too much of a weak position. I think you're looking for at least the first 3 days of the week for us to see some serious corrective movement on this pair before we potentially see a bit of a pullback and the pair to fire off. The thing that makes this pair even more interesting is when you consider all of this that we've got going on. If we actually zoom out, we can see that this pair is in a phenomenal descending channel with multiple taps of our trend lines. So we've got a tap up here, tap, 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 and plenty more going on around here. So it's easy to say that what we're looking for is a wait until we get onto the top of our trend line, and then we're going to enter a short position. However, I don't think it's necessarily that simple. If we then zoom out even more and jump into the month view, let's remove everything that we've got in, we can actually see that the low for this month is lower than the low for September. You can just about, I'll actually draw that on for you as well so that you can see it's lower than the low for September. And then what we'd be looking to see, and I think what's going to be the key identifier here, is if this month ends above the high for September, because if it is, it's a bullish engulfing candle. Quite simple. Bullish engulfing, bearish engulfing candles normally lead to a further continuation of trend. So I think we will reach the top of our channel. I think we need to be looking for longs in this pair. I don't think short is going to be the way forward, not unless you're having a quick scalp and you're just riding the consolidation and the corrective movement. But for sure, for me, I think the way forward for this pair is to await the retrace. We need to wait for that corrective movement to this support area. And hopefully, as I say, I think we're going to be lucky to get this on next week, maybe towards the end of next week. That's going to be roughly our entry, and I think that we can swing this one to the top of our channel, and there's going to be plenty in the bag for this one if we can remain patient and wait for the right entry.